Jobot from San Gervasi. This is the Rorschach, Georgia update from the 14th of May, 2026. Quick summary of what's going down in Georgia. Monday the 11th, Shido Mujidi became the new Patriarch of Georgia. Mujidi, who will be now known as Shio III, won a vote at the Holy Trinity Cathedral in Tbilisi, securing 22 out of the 39 votes from the Holy Synod. He beat out two other candidates to take over leadership of the country's most influential institution. While his supporters view him as the hand-picked successor of the late Patriarch Ilya II, critics worry about his background. Mujidi studied in Russia and maintains close ties with the Russian Orthodox Church, leading some to label him a pro-Kremlin figure. Many observers also point to his cozy relationship with the ruling party, suggesting his leadership will align the church even closer with the Kotsebi, if that were even possible. Next up, on Wednesday the 6th, Formula TV announced that it has identified a special task department officer who brutally beat their journalist Guram Rogava during the 2024 pro-European protests. For 2 years, this individual faced no consequences, but just days after the report, authorities charged him and 4 other members of the department for the beatings of both Rogava and the former chairman of the United National Movement, or Natsevi, Levan Kabaishvili. While some of the officers already pleaded guilty, the ruling party claims these were isolated incidents rather than systemic violence. The opposition accurately says that these arrests are just a drop in the ocean compared to the state-sponsored brutality against demonstrators that followed the fraudulent 2024 elections. On Friday the 8th, with Trump desperate not to have people talk about his close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and the 38,000 mentions of him as a part of the Epstein files that were actually released, the U.S. Department of Defense released a trove of declassified UFO documents, hoping that might help. Surprisingly, Georgia made the list, and it is so great. This particular file details a bizarre diplomatic incident from 2001 in the Kodori Gorge in western Georgia. At the time, the Georgian government reported that Russian jets had violated their airspace and bombed the area, but the Kremlin came up with a truly wild excuse. According to the declassified files, Russian officials, including the deputy foreign minister, categorically denied the bombing, suggesting instead that the intruders might have been unidentified flying objects. The report, which includes the FBI analysis, notes that Russia typically resorts to obvious lies to cover its tracks, although it doesn't name the Russian word for this, which is vranyo, where you lie not to conceal the truth, and everybody knows you're lying. You just lie to illustrate your contempt for the listener. While the idea of aliens bombing Georgia makes a funny headline, the document confirms it was actually just some regular old Russian vranyo about Kremlin-sponsored military aggression in Georgia. Sadly, there is no word for this type of lying in English. In other news, on Sunday the 10th, the theft of a Japanese traveler's bicycle in Kobuleti, western Georgia, went viral across the country, mostly because of the sheer embarrassment it caused. The traveler, Naoya Tibipito, had already cycled through 45 countries and covered 57,000 kilometers over the last 3 years without anyone touching his gear. He only lasted a week in Georgia before someone snatched his bike from outside his tent while he was camping in a forest near the beach. The bike was a custom-built model he spent 6 years saving up for back in Japan. Since the news broke, Georgian social media has been on a mission to find it. While the police are officially on the case, hundreds of people are sharing photos of the bike online and even offering Naoya free places to stay or donations for a new one, desperate to make up for the bad first impression. On Thursday the 7th, a group of Helvachoudi City Hall employees physically and verbally attacked the parents of political prisoners and local journalists in Ajata in western Georgia. The incident went down in a park right next to the mayor's office while the parents were handing out their newspapers. Video footage shows officials threatening to smash cameras and trying to block reporters from filming, with the father of prisoners, Viad Skertladze, stating that the men even put their hands on him. The attackers weren't just random staff. Local outlets identified them as high-ranking municipal officials with ties to the mayor, Zaza Diasamidze. Group included the mayor's cousin and the brother of a local police chief. On Thursday the 7th, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova used her weekly briefing to praise Georgian people for, quote, protecting history by sticking with the 9th of May as Victory Day, end quote. While Europe and Ukraine celebrated the end of World War II on the 8th of May, Russia and its former satellites hold on to the 9th, and the date has recently become a major flashpoint for Georgia's geopolitical alignment. Zakharova framed the refusal to change the date as a victory over Western attempts to erase the past, while calling for closer cultural ties to restore good neighborly relations. Zakharova did not go into the details of the Hitler-Stalin Pact or Molotov-von Ribbentrop Pact of the 23rd of August 1939, including its secret protocols that actually started the Second World War when the USSR invaded the Baltics, Finland, and Poland, and Germany invaded Poland, as the two powers had agreed in that document. On Tuesday, the 12th, the French Parliament passed a resolution calling for targeted sanctions against Bidzina Ivanishvili and his Circle for Georgia's Authoritarian Drift. The document labels Ivanishvili an oligarch, condemns the crackdown on protests, and demands the release of political prisoners. The resolution also urges the French government to consider revoking Ivanishvili's Legion of Honor. President Emmanuel Macron awarded him the rank of Knight in early 2021, primarily for his foundation's donations during the pandemic. While centrists and Greens supported the measure, the far right and far left opposed it. Former President Salome Zurabashvili attended the session in person, leading Georgian Dream or the Kotzebue to dismiss the resolution as a baseless hostile act. On Tuesday the 12th, London's Royal Opera House called for the immediate release of the world-renowned based opera singer Pata Burchladze. In a letter to Prime Minister Keir Starmer, casting director Peter Katona described the singer's 7-year sentence as a demonstrative punishment by a pro-Russian authoritarian regime. Burchladze was convicted following the October 4th case, which centers on a 2025 anti-government rally where protesters attempted to storm the presidential residence. Burchladze was found guilty for calling for a constitutional overthrow. According to Eurostat data for 2025, Georgia now ranks second among non-EU nations for the number of citizens deported or ordered to leave the European Union. Last year, over 10,000 Georgian citizens were asked to leave, a number only surpassed by Turkey, which saw 13,000 citizens deported. Syria followed third place with almost 9,000 people. Given how much smaller Georgia's population is compared to Turkey and Syria, the number is truly staggering. In sports, World Rugby handed down a massive blow to Georgian Rugby on Monday, the 11th, following the doping investigation. The probe revealed a criminal scheme where officials helped players hide drug use by tipping them off about tests and swapping samples. Former captain of the national team, Merab Sarikadze, received the harshest sentence, an 11-year ban, effectively ending his career. In a public interview, he admitted providing his own urine sample to other teammates so they could pass the test, but refused to give names. Other veterans and the team's former doctor also faced 6 to 7 year bans. In more positive news, football superstar Kvicia Kvaratskhelia and his club Paris Saint-Germain won the French championship on Wednesday the 13th. Paris Saint-Germain locked in the title with a 2-0 victory over Lens, which Kvicia opened the score on the 29th minute. This is the second time Kvicia has won the championship since moving to Paris. He continues to be a key player for France's most elite club and remains by far the most popular Georgian sportsman in the world today. An OC Media article by Tamuna Chkhareuli titled How a Georgian Artist Smuggled an Abkhazia Piece into Nauru's Biennale Pavilion tells the story of a Georgian artist who used a strange coincidence to make a political point. Nauru is one of the few countries that recognizes Abkhazia's independence, so when Rakhviashvili received an invitation to represent the microstate's pavilion, he felt uncomfortable at first. Yet he eventually decided to use the space to show the reality of the conflict that displaced his family. The report describes his work, a sea that remembers, as a large seashell that pairs the peaceful sounds of the coast with the sudden violent audio of the 1990s war. The article explains Rakhviashvili's choice to bypass the official Georgian pavilion to avoid working with the Ministry of Culture. He also places the stunt within the tense atmosphere of the 2026 Biennale, which has seen heavy protests following Russia's return to the festival. Link to the English language article in the show notes. And that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Anything to ask or tell us? info@rorschach.com. Nachamdis.